So this course, Trauma-Informed Care on Education, really seeks to prepare pre-service teachers for what they're going to experience when they get out in the field, and that is traumatized students. And what the class really looks at is the science behind trauma, what actually happens to developing children's brains when they're exposed to trauma, how we can support our students, and how we can support our teachers. It's really important to keep in mind, I think a lot of pre-service teachers know yet that these trauma responses kind of look like bad behavior, but that's really not the case, and that's really what I want to impress upon my students, is that they're having a little mini crisis, and how can we solve that problem without coming down on them for having bad behavior in the classroom. They're trying to tell you something, and that's what Trauma-Informed Care and Education is seeking to answer. One of the things I have done to make my class more trauma-informed is actually offering more frequent breaks. It's something we do for our elementary school students. It's something I'm doing for my college students. When we're talking about really heavy material like this, I really feel like taking more frequent breaks to help them process, do emotional check-ins. We do a lot of mindfulness moments. We lead almost every class with a meditative passage of some sort. I actually usually read most of those out loud for them. I haven't found any high quality ones on YouTube yet. But I also have a self-care basket that I take everywhere I go with snacks, gum, sticky notes, there's hand lotion in there, and they respond really well to that. The feedback that I got, that I give them snacks every single week, shows I care for their basic needs. So it's important to them to have snacks. So all my students have to write a self-care plan before we get going on this journey together. I have had some that have spoken a little bit candidly about their mental illness and how that was kind of mistreated in the schools, necessarily not understood. I had one student in particular who was not understood, and he was really an asset to the class. He had a lot of really insightful things to say, especially when we talked about self-care. And his self-care plan was incredibly detailed and outlined all of his goals, and it was lovely. So I do think it does make personal connections for sure, yeah.
We kind of talked about having like individual plans for students and letting them kind of make that, because in the book it talks about like what makes you feel good when you're having these, and so it's like listen to music or just that kind of stuff, and having the kids make their own plan with your support, obviously. Just so that they feel involved, but also you're coming up with a plan for them that works for them.
One of the projects that the students really appreciated doing was creating hypothetical behavior management plans for these fictional students that I've created for them, loosely based on some students that I've worked with in the past. And so they had to work in teams to create a plan to help manage the students' trauma responses in the classroom. What are their triggers? But what are their strengths? You know, where do they need support, and who in the building, in this fictional building, could help support them in that journey? They also, when they presented these final projects, the OSU therapy dog came to visit, and that was also a hit. So I think that the responses I've gotten have been really positive. A lot of students I don't think were prepared for thinking about the consequences of trauma. I think they were ready to learn, what do we do in the classroom, and how do we fix this, and how do we change the world? But a lot of them were really shocked, I think, about what the brain science, the beginning part of the term. And they really had to hang in there with me as I talked about things in a different order, in that we learned about the brain science first, we talked about burnout and self-care, and then we got into what do we do about it. We have to learn about what's actually happening up here before we can solve problems. So for trauma-informed care training, Oregon doesn't require any training for any teachers to be trauma-informed, in-service or pre-service. Now there are a few districts here and there that provide their in-service teachers with trauma-informed care training, but it's spotty. It's not mandated statewide like it is in Washington and Virginia. And so this class is really unique in that it's trying to train pre-service teachers on what they'll experience even before they get out in the field. And there are very few universities doing this across the nation.
Hi, this is Beth Rankin. I hope you'll join me for part 3 of this video series, where we'll look at how a teacher with Corvallis School District is using trauma-informed techniques in his classroom.